Okay, this is the volume and surface area of a cone. You have a recording already on this, but I promised you that I would put the answers out so you could check the one that I didn't finish. So let's go down to that problem now. And that problem is this one right here. We've got a radius of 8 feet. We've got a height of 13 feet. And if you haven't noticed, there's always a right triangle, or not right triangle, a right angle in here, which indicates the Pythagorean theorem will work in order to find your L. Your L is going to be your slant height. So we will have to find the L. You don't know what L is right now. So we've got, we started with slant height. We had a squared plus b squared equals L squared, or the same as c squared. We knew that this radius was 8 feet, so 8 squared, and we knew the height was 13, so that's going to be your other leg. These are your two legs right here, 8 and 13. 13 squared plus 8 squared equals L squared. 169 plus 64 equals L squared. 169 and 64. Again, you want your calculator for this stuff. Is 233 equals L squared. The way you isolate L squared is to take the square root of L squared. The way you isolate L is to take the square root of L squared, which gives you L. But you also have to take the square root of 233. And that's going to be L equals the square root of 233. Now it's going to be between 15 and 16 because the square root of 225 is 15 squared and 16 squared is 256. So it's somewhere in between that. But we can just use the square root of 233. It doesn't matter. We've already calculated our volume. Volume is pi r squared, which is the area of that base. And then okay, somehow we had gotten it divided by 3 out of there. So it's either a third of the area times the height, or you can just take the area times the height and divide by 3, which gives you 2,612 and 4,800. You divide that by 3. Again, all this is on your calculator. And so that's going to end up being 870 and 8,300, and that's feet cubed because it's the amount of whatever you're putting into that cone. It's a cubic measurement, whether it be ice cream or water or whatever the case might be. Okay, now for surface area, you have all the surfaces. Let's start with the circular base, which is going to be the area of that circle. So that's that pi r squared right here. We already know pi r squared is going to be 200.96. This is the other shortened up formula. If you take half of 2 pi r, you end up with pi r. That's where that comes from, pi r times L. I'm going to just take information we already have and put it in. So there's our pi r squared, which we'll go ahead and highlight in the green. That's the area of the base. But then you have this whole area, this whole thing right here that you have to make some kind of material to make. You can see that one of its edges is their circumference. So there's your circumference right there. Choose a different color. Here's circumference is 2 pi r. There's your 2 pi r. But you're not going to take all of it. L is essentially, it's kind of like the height, but what they've come up with is that the circumference, if you multiply it by the slant height, then you have to take half of that value in order. So you essentially take half of your circumference and then multiply that by L, and you'll come up with what materials you need for this portion right here. So I'm just going to, again, substitute in values. So 2 pi r we already know is 50.24. L we know is the square root of 233. And then we're going to divide that all by 2. Taking a half and dividing by 2 are the same thing. So we've got 50.24 times square root of 233 divided by 2. If you do that on your calculator, you end up with 383.44. It's been rounded to the hundredths plus 200.96. You add those together and you end up with surface area of 584.40 feet squared. Again, this has been rounded, so I should have made these approximations. And I don't remember if that was rounded or not. So anyway, there you go. Let's have you try one more problem, see how you do, and then I'll go ahead and put those answers up. So it gives you another practice. So I'm going to stop the recording, write it down for you, and then you're going to go ahead and try it. Okay, so here's your problem. After I go over it, just go ahead and turn off your recording and do it on your own. Okay, so you've got a diameter of 8 feet. You can use diameter and circumference because circumference is either 2 pi r or c equals pi d. Either one is fine. Doesn't matter which one you use. So you don't have to do anything to find circumference. And that will give you your 2 pi r amount. You will, however, for volume, when you find the area of a circle, you're going to need a radius. So you're going to have to find the radius with a diameter of 8 feet. This 8 feet is not the height right here. This is the slant height. So L equals, the slant height equals 8 feet. So you've got the L part. You've got the B part. Usually this is B. It doesn't really matter. What you don't have is the height. So you're going to have to find height. So this time, instead of finding L, you're going to have to find height. So let me change that. So to be able to find height, you're going to have to do it a little bit differently. So now you won't have your A value. So you're going to have to find your A value. So find height. Or you had to find your L value. Now you know your L, you know your B, it's your radius. You've got to find this right here. Okay, then you can go ahead and substitute in, and remember, for the volume of a cone, it's 1/3, or I prefer to divide by 3, it's just easier on the calculator, of the volume of a cylinder with the same base and height. And then on the surface area, you can use the shorter formula if you wish, but I prefer just to take the circumference times your slant height and divide that by 2, and then add that together with the area of this base. And this is what you are going to manufacture this cone out of, whether it be graham cracker batter, which you're making an ice cream cone with, or some kind of metal or plastic, whereas volume is what you're putting inside, like the ice cream. All right, go ahead and try this. As soon as you think you've got it, turn it back on and check. If you get really stuck, you can either go back and watch previous recordings, or you can turn it on and have me work you through it. Okay, again, my doing the area of a circle, circumference of a circle, and finding the height separately is just simply to help you see this a little bit better and to understand that you know a lot of this process already. So the area of a circle is A equals pi r squared. So the radius for an 8-foot diameter is 4 feet, so it's going to be 3.14 times 4 squared. 4 squared is 16 times 3.14 is 50.24. Now for volume, we need to take that area of a circle, pi r squared, multiply it by the height. Well, we don't know the height at this point because it's not written on here. We have to find the height. And then we have to divide by 3. So we come over to find the height. We know A squared. We know this part right here. That's going to be 4, and we know C squared, that's the slant height, because this is a right triangle, that's 8 feet. So A squared plus 4 squared equals 8 squared, A squared plus 16 equals 64. Subtract 16 on both sides. A squared equals the square root of 48. To get A squared to A, which is what you're trying to find, you take the square root of both sides. So A equals the square root of 48. Now for our purposes, for volume, that's adequate. We don't need to do anything with it. But for, if you want to simplify, let's just do a quick review on this. The square root of 48 is divisible by 16, which is a perfect square. So square root of 16 times the square root of 3 gives you the square root of 48. Square root of 16 is 4 times the square root of 3. That's the most simplified, but actually we don't need it for what we're doing. But that's just a little quick review for you. So we take 50.24, which is the area of the circle, times the slant height, times the height, which is the square root of 48. Let's go ahead and put that in there. This height equals the square root of 48, which is the same thing as 4 times the square root of 3. Okay, so then we take the the area of the circle times the height, which is the square root of 48. Divide that by 3, because remember, a cone is 1/3 the size of a cylinder with the same base and height. So you divide that by 3, and you get 50.24 times the square root of 48 is 348.07, divided by 3 is 116 and 200 feet cubed. And again, I've rounded that to the hundredths, so I said approximately. Now, surface area actually still uses some of the area measure, the circle measurement, because that's your base. Okay, that's what you'd have to make the circle out of. So that's your pi r squared, which is 50.24. And then it takes this circumference, which is on the edge of this whole thing that makes the cone. And so that's 2 pi r. Or in this case, I used pi d because you were given the diameter, so why not use it? So it was 3.14 times 8, which is 25.12, 25 and 12 hundredths. I multiply that by the slant height, by L, which is the slant height, and I was given that amount, which is 8 feet, and then I take that amount and divide it by 2, because this is not going to be like a cylinder, so you have to divide it by 2. So I would go 8 divided by 2 personally and take 25 and 12 hundredths times 4. But if you multiply these and divide by 2, you still get 100.48. You add that together with the area that you got for a circle, 50.24, and you get 150.72 feet squared. Okay, so hopefully you're understanding this. If not, go back and watch all or part of the recording again.